But all this information is going to have a downstream effect to the documentation. So when I open up the drawing, it's automatically going to put the names on the drawings for me and really minimize the amount of time I spend redrawing something. So I'm finished. I'm just going to hit finish here, and it's going to go out and make those changes. And once it's done, it comes back kind of with a result window, and I'm happy with the results. And you can immediately see that is rename those files to short clamp. Another point of interest is the comments area. Autodesk Vault is going to automatically place comments on these files for you. You can see that I knew where this was copied from, and you can also see that I just put a new property edit. It's also going to version those files automatically for me as well, so that if I needed to revert back to the original, I would be able to do that if needed. So everything I've done so far has been done in the Thick client or the Vault client, and now I want to move over to Inventor, and I physically want to make some changes to this assembly so that I can make it smaller. So we'll switch over to Inventor. And what I'm going to do is, for those of you that haven't seen 2010 yet, this is the new ribbon. And what I want to do is I want to open this file from Vault. You can see here I'm looking at the assembly we'll eventually replace this new assembly with, but that'll come up in a second. So I want to hit Open. And it's going to basically allow me to go browse, and I can go browse for that particular file. It happens to be 700, and I'm going to check out the entire thing. Just very quickly check it out, say OK. And because I made some changes to the data, it's telling me there's some property updates, and I want to go ahead and say yes to that. And those changes were the description changes I made from tall to short. And now I have this new assembly. Now it doesn't look any different, but now I want to make some changes to it, and I actually want to make it smaller. Just to show you here inside Vault, you can see I've got the two new parts right here, and as I highlight them, it'll show you over here on the right-hand side which parts I'm working with. And we want to make a change to this part right here, so I'm going to edit that. And I'm going to edit the sketch, and if you remember earlier, we actually evaluated what the dimension needed to be. And it's about 280, so I'm just going to kind of round up a little bit. But 470 or 460 was the previous number. It was actually 460 to this edge, and then there's a 10 millimeter addition on there. So what I'm going to do is I know it needs to be 280, and I'm going to add this dimension right here just for giggles. So now I've got the new dimension at 290. Now, for those of you that are Inventor users, there's some other things going on here. I have some rules put into this design that says if it gets to a certain height, automatically suppress some of the features. Unfortunately, this is a DM demo, not an Inventor demo, so I'm just going to continue on. But you are able to create some rules that allows you to suppress features based on certain conditions. So I'll finish the sketch here and commit this update. And now that that update's been committed, I'm just going to return one more to the assembly. And what you'll notice is now the entire assembly has been updated based on that new change. My wire harness has been updated, the plates updated, and the entire assembly basically reconfigured itself down to a smaller size for me pretty quickly. So I'm going to save since I've already done some things here. Now I don't have to do a save if I want to check in. Vault will actually tell me, but I'm just going to go ahead and do a save. And we're going to check this into the Vault and say created new clamp assembly. Okay. So that'll check that information into the Vault for me. And it's also creating those DWIFs we mentioned earlier to make that information viewable maybe to non-CAD users or other individuals within your organization that don't have Inventor. So that's done. Now I want to look at the drawing. So I also created a drawing of this. So I want to do the same thing I did before, and we'll just go into our drawings folder here. And during that replication, we also copied the documentation that was associated to that particular exploded view assembly. And I'm just going to do a checkout all here, say OK to that. And what it's going to do now, it's going to basically open up that drawing, and it was pretty quick. It's kind of hard to see, but you can immediately see that the documentation has been updated with that change. So very quickly I was able to update my documentation. Now, some other points of interest kind of fall into kind of the boring stuff for we designers. We don't like to type stuff over and over again. You'll notice I made that change and renamed it from tall clamp to short clamp. It automatically updated that information on my drawing. Also in my bill of material, you notice I now have a short jig harness instead of a tall jig harness. And the part number has been updated as well. So I made changes within Vault, and it automatically updated the documentation for me very simply just by checking out the document. So now that I'm finished with this, I'm just going to go back to my Vault pull down, and we're just going to run a save. Now, I don't have to hit save again. And we're going to check that in, and we're going to say updated. Updated documentation with new short clamp. Now, you don't have to put comments in. You know, I find a lot of end users don't. But what it's going to do is it's going to add intelligence to your database where now this information becomes searchable. And that doesn't have to be a note. Maybe it's actually a dimensional change. Change dimension 1/4 inch to 3/8. Well, that information ends up becoming historical reference data that you can look back on to understand what happened during each of the changes that occurred in this particular assembly. Again, DWIFs are automatically created, so I'm just going to check this in, and it's going to automatically put this into Vault for me. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to close this drawing, and we're done with that, so we'll close that. Now the last thing I have to do is I've got the wrong part currently sitting on my assembly. So all I want to do here is I want to run a replace, and we're just going to browse out and find that particular assembly. Now we know it's 700, 500. Now if I didn't have this loaded within my workstation, I could immediately go to Vault and pull it down as well. So based on where the assembly is located, I can very easily grab that information from wherever it is. We'll say OK to that, and now you can see that the short clamp is part of my assembly. So again, the last piece of this is we want to save this and check it in. I'm just going to say check in this time, and you'll notice it's telling me it has to be saved. I hit yes to that, and it's going to bring up my window again, and we say replace tall clamp with short clamp and say OK. And now the final piece has been done here. We've finished our documentation. There is a drawing that's associated to this that if I had time I was going to check in as well, but I'm going to kind of forego that, and we're going to move back into the Vault and look at some of the changes we did here and kind of bring the demonstration today to a close. So I'm going to move back into Vault, and I'm just going to hit refresh here. And if I want to look at the drawing that I just showed you, if I do a view in window, I now have that new short clamp assembly ready to be sent out to production. Now, one other point of interest is maybe I want to email this. I have the capability of going right in and using Microsoft Outlook to email this file to individuals within my organization. So that might be for people that don't have the thin client. The alternative is if they do have the thin client, I could also provide them a link, and they would just click on that and it would take them right to that document. So there's a lot of abilities for me here to kind of send this information out to individuals within my organization. So that concludes the demonstration portion. I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint here, and we're going to bring this to a close here.